morning, councillors, staff and members of the public gallery. Federation Council wishes to advise members of the public that the council meetings will be recorded and will be available after each meeting on council's website. All care will be taken to maintain the privacy of those in attendance. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence will be recorded. By remaining in the public gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event of your image being broadcasted. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting today, the Bangarang people, and acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who now reside in this area. I extend that respect to elders past and present of the Bangarang nations. I now call for apologies.
I have one from Councillor David Longley, who's requested a leave of absence.
Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Meagle. All in favour? Against, carried. Applications for leave of absence. Councillor Longley has been dealt with. Confirmation of minutes. Would someone like to move the minutes to the last meeting? Please moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. All in favour? Against, carried. Disclosure of interest.
I do have one from Councillor Thomas, non-significant, non-pecuniary, in relation to item 8.5. That's the event proposal for Mulwala Public School 150-year reunion. So Councillor Thomas will remain in the chamber for that one, being a non-significant, non-pecuniary.
Excellent.
Table that one.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. All in favour? Against, carried. Norm, sorry?
May I say the same reason too for the 150-year school reunion, but I'm involved with Councillor Thomas. He went to school there.
Move that. Councillor White, moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. All in favour? Against, carried. I'll now pass it over to the General Manager. We have a couple of public speakers, so you might like to introduce.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We have two public speakers today. I'll just call on Robert Pearce, being our first public speaker, to address the Council on the draft on-site sewage management policy that has been on exhibition. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Pearce, and I'm here to address the Council on the Council's draft on-site sewage management strategy. The draft strategy is largely directed at single household systems for up to 10 people or 2,000 litres of effluent per day. However, Council is the sole consent authority for assessment, approval and monitoring of all systems for up to 2,500 people or 750,000 litres of effluent per day. The strategy states that all sewage systems must be able to prove compliance before development consent can be granted. The strategy lists information requests from developers but mentions no guidelines, regulations, setbacks or exclusion zones that apply to large commercial systems or gives reference to where this information can be found. Since the southern boundary of the council area is the Murray River, which is critically endangered and referred to as a feature of the area, it is essential that any sewage system poses no threat to this environmentally sensitive region. After speaking to Council's Environmental Health Officer, it was suggested that I should be able to look up the information I was seeking. After speaking to a number of New South Wales Government departments, I was told I would not find the information I was seeking in a single document. Although not regulated by EPA, any system must still meet EPA regulations. New South Wales Health assured me that the EPA will become involved if a system is approved that pollutes the environment. The Local Government General Regulation 2005 states that systems must not discharge into a watercourse or onto any land other than its related application area. The EPA says this includes any drainage that leads to a watercourse. If one single household septic tank not working properly can cause pollution up to 50 kilometres downstream, I can only imagine the damage an inappropriately designed or located large commercial system could cause. The Environmental Planning and Assessment Regulation 2000 states that a sewage system for more than 20 people or 6,000 litres of effluent per day within 100 metres of the high bank of a water body needs an environmental impact statement. This is consistent with Murray Regional Environmental Plan No. 2's recommendation that a need for an EIS should be carefully considered for any sewage treatment works in any area covered by this plan. There is an expectation that the public will be involved in the assessment of any sewage system in an environmentally sensitive area. The Department of Urban Affairs and Planning EIS guideline on sewage systems states to avoid sites within 250 metres of significant environmental or conservation values, such as land zones under a local environment plan or a regional environment plan for environmentally protection purposes. This includes E3 zones in Cora LEP where sewage systems, sewage treatment plants and sewage reticulation systems are all prohibited within this zone. Systems should also be compatible with existing land use. This sort of information, along with required setbacks and exclusion zones, should be all included or at least referenced in the strategy so that the developers and public can easily access all requirements for all on-site sewage systems that Council is a consent authority for. This is very relevant at the present time since the Council is currently having under assessment a DA for a large caravan park and tourist resort for some 600 people, which has 3 sewage treatment plants proposed to be located below the high bank of the river in a position where any system failure causing an overflow could see real sewage flowing down the bank and directly into the river system. There is a duty of care to be considered. Council's draft risk management policy clearly states that the Council has zero appetite for any risk that may constitute a threat to the health, safety and welfare of any person. I therefore believe Council should include more information in their strategy which would lead to a better outcome for all river users and the environment. Thank you. Now, with the Chairman's permission, would anyone like to ask any questions?
That'll be fine. Any questions, Councillor? Councillor Longmore?
Yeah, I think our position in what Rob demonstrated or spoke about is something that is inviting for us to perhaps look at. But the bigger picture is it's under the JLPP care and control. Have I got that right, Mr. General Manager?
Yeah, that's correct. So the strategy is something we have to have in place regardless for all systems, and the application, separate matter under the, will be determined by the joint panel. Yeah.
Okay, so we have an input towards it. Yeah. Thank you.
Any further, Councillor? No, if there's nothing more, Robert, thank you very much for that presentation. Very informative and very interesting, and Council will endeavour to continue to work with you and the process going forward.
In that case, I'd like to thank everybody very much for allowing me to come and speak here today.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Well done.
Just invite Sue Curtis, our second speaker, up to the podium. Sue's here to speak, address Council on a matter that the Council are aware of recently with reports also, and present a petition regarding the intersection of Door Street, Gallipoli Street and Hermitage Drive in Cora.
Thank you. Mayor Burke, General Manager, Council Executives and Council. My concern, as stated, is the intersection Hermitage, Door Street and Gallipoli Street. I live in the area and I can assure you it's a very dangerous intersection. Mainly, if you're travelling west on Gallipoli Street, the cross T intersection is Hermitage Drive on the left, Door Street on the right, and on that intersection is a childcare centre. When you approach that intersection and you're in Gallipoli Street, you look left, there is a bend in Hermitage Drive which comes very close to that intersection. If you want to turn right on that corner, you are on a give-way sign in Gallipoli Street. Basically it's a stop sign because you cannot see. You have to go very slowly across that intersection. You can get 3/4 of the way across that intersection and a car will be coming from Hermitage Drive. They're not happy, but we haven't seen them because you can't see them. You can't see that far along the street. On traffic coming up Door Street, and same story, you want to turn right. It's very difficult to see because there is a new housing development there. At the moment, I know it's temporary because there's a lot of tradies trapped there, but they'll be replaced by residential cars. Another bad sight. The childcare centre does not have enough car parking. There are 80 families involved there. There's about 50 children there a day, so you can imagine the pick up and drop off. And they have 12 staff. The 12 staff have 4 viable car parks. They have a car park on the side there. 2 of those are used for their little mini buses. 2 are for parents drop off pick up. There are 5 left. One of those can't be used because it's where the skip bin goes. So 12 staff have 4 car parks. So there's 4 houses from there to the next corner, Katrina Circuit corner. Any day there will be 9 cars parked along there. So the people who live along there have permanent parking out the front of their place. When they want to back out, it's very difficult to see. It also adds to the congestion on the corner. I applied to speak to the last council meeting. That letter was answered to me by Mr. Gall, and we spoke on the phone, we had some conversations, and I discussed my concerns. I suggested a stop sign on Hermitage Drive. That hadn't been thought of at the time, so Mr. Gall said he would get back to me about that. True to his word, a couple of days later he did ring me back. And he said that there was a law that, for a stop sign. There had to be, I can't tell you the exact meterage, but there was a sight line meterage, and that corner did not fit that category. In the meantime, the council had painted a traffic island, a painted one, on the roadway from the centre line and hopefully make that corner easier to navigate. Well, as I said to Mr. Gore, it's just a waste of time. Because and he had also suggested that perhaps they would put a concrete bollard thing around that to make it more negotiable. That puts you right in line with the cars that are parked in front of the childcare centre. And when you think about it, people who pick up children from the childcare centre don't all only have one child. So they have to come onto the roadside to put a child into the car there, and most of those children need to be clipped into seatbelts. Therefore, the car door is open, the person is clipping the child into a seatbelt, yet they are basically in line with the traffic coming around the corner. An oncoming car, well, hello, there's another problem. You have to veer slightly to pass those people. They can't help it, the childcare centre can't help it. Why don't they have more parking? I don't know why that happens. They decided to move Door Street alignment from the bottom end of Door Street, this end in front of the housing development. They moved Door Street out approximately 2 metres, might be a fraction more, roughly 2 metres. I think that was to sort of slow the traffic down or something, but that has just made the corner tighter and more difficult to navigate. As far as I can see, I really don't know how you can move bricks and mortar, but everything that's happened at that corner, in my humble opinion, has made that corner tighter and more dangerous. So I was not happy after the conversation with Mr. Gore, and I said I would get a petition. So he said, well, that might help. So another lady helped me, and she did the Hermitage Drive end. I did my end, including Katrina Circuit. We got 149 signatures, and I could guarantee I'd get at least 50 more because I did mine on a Sunday. I would say 1 in 3 houses weren't home. I didn't double back, I thought it's what it is. not one place hesitated, not one place. And I would say 80% of those people, their comment to me was, ask them why they narrowed Door Street and why doesn't the childcare centre have more parking? That's the issue on that corner. A bit late now. So from that discussion, from getting the petition, I thought I'm not just going to hand that over the desk and perhaps it won't make this council meeting. So I rang a council and I was advised to perhaps make an appointment with the General Manager, which I did. And I had a meeting with Mr Butler. We discussed the corner. He also told me that at the last council meeting, after that there'd been a workshop and that area had been discussed. That was why I wanted to speak at the last one, so that you knew about it before that happened. But anyway, we're here now, and I appreciate that. So from that discussion, he suggested perhaps a site visit. That occurred yesterday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and 4 councillors, Councillors Law, Whitechurch, Wales and Meagle came, and General Manager Mr Butler came. Now I drive that corner probably 3 or 4 times a day, and it's dangerous when I get there. Let me tell you, if you stand there for an hour and watch the traffic going round that corner, it is very dangerous. It's an accident waiting to happen, and you can't control bad driving and that sort of thing, but it doesn't have to be bad driving. The through traffic from Hermitage Drive coming straight through the top of that T intersection going down Door Street, going either way, is travelling at their 50s, let's hope they are, but they go through there pretty quickly. The problem is the people coming up on Gallipoli Street. Where do they go? And as I've said, the parking in front of the childcare centre is dangerous. I don't know what you can do on that area. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a drafts person, but I'd like to think I've got some common sense, and as far as I'm concerned, common sense is a mile in front on that corner. It just does not work. The discussions yesterday on the corner were great. Stop signs, roundabouts, move perhaps a paving in front of the childcare to allow for more parking. That's an issue that council and those who do that sort of thing have to decide. But as just as an everyday citizen and concerned about what's going to happen, I hope, I'm not Exhibit A, I also hope that no one is injured before something is done, because I'm sure when something's done the wheels will turn pretty quickly, but it needs to turn before that. Thank you for your time. I sincerely thank those councillors and Mr Butler for coming yesterday to that corner. I think perhaps it enlightened them quite a bit, and I thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity to speak at council. Thank you very much.
And Sue, thank you very much for attending council today and bringing that to the attention. It's great to see that the staff have been working on it with you, and of course the councillors that attended yesterday. So obviously there'll be further inquiry to get some resolve to this problem. And just before you go, is there any questions council would like to ask?
I'm happy to answer.
Councillor White.
Thank you, Mr. I'd just like to firstly thank Sue for being involved in this problem here. It is an issue, and from the inspection there yesterday with the other councillors, a few scenarios worked out what we could do, and it was good having a bit of feedback and to see what actually does happen there. It is a lot of times when I was working with police, it is a dangerous situation, and I hope something can be resolved, whether roundabout stop signs or like Mr Butler moved the white lines in the wrong place. Well, there's certainly some issues to be put forward to try and solve it, because it is a very intersection.
I also could add perhaps that while we were there, Councillor Wales and Councillor Whitechurch realised that the dotted line across the road for the giveaway sign has been there since the road was there. Now the road has been narrowed. That dotted line has not been moved up in line with the intersection, so therefore that makes the vision very difficult.
Councillor Whitechurch is
Mr Mayor, if I could, I'd like to thank Sue, and well, I've got the opportunity to thank Robert for their presentation this morning. In particular with Sue, I can let you know, Sue, and as I mentioned yesterday, that I did bring this issue up at a workshop at Oaklands in March. We then followed it up in June, and at that point the council staff were investigating and looking into it. What's probably disappointing, and it's through no fault of our internal staff, is the time it takes to get these things actioned and done. And Councillor Beagle mentioned yesterday that the process to go through RMS and the whole bit is long and drawn out. I'd like to see through you, Mr Gore, or the correct member of staff, Mr Butler's delegation, that we do accelerate this because it is an accident waiting to happen, and I believe that we can't change the fact that the childcare centre was built out in a paddock 15, 17 years ago, and it has grown around it, and it's outgrown the size. It certainly is a very popular thoroughfare. I use it myself, and hence know how dangerous it is. So I can assure you that I will follow it through. It's a shame that it had to get to a petition and that you had to get involved, but I believe that from here moving forward that we do something, and I'll ask that it's as a matter of urgency.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Nothing further, Councillor? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to the Merrill Minute. The first item is 6.1, drought support, seeking federal government support for council to assist drought-stricken farmers. This recommendation there, councillors, the recommendation of council staff make application for inclusion into the federal government drought support program along with supporting other neighbouring councils, and make contact with Ram Joe to seek support. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Thomas. All in favour? I'm sorry, before I put it, would you like to discuss the e-commerce? Sorry, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Thomas, well, ladies before gentlemen, please. Councillor Thomas.
I look forward. This is such an important issue, and we actually really need to do this really study. Basically, what is happening out on our resources is devastating due to not only a rainfall deficiency but also to a severe frost that occurred 10 days ago. I have consulted with my fellow councillor Longmire this morning, and I would like to put a recommendation forward that we actually pull together a discussion paper to put forward on behalf of Federation Council to our joint organisation to pull together some really strong strategies for our farming community. And also I cannot think about the losses that are occurring out there. We're thinking about 8% losses across our districts. And after taking on the liberty of speaking to a couple of key, one was a small business owner and one was an agronomist, a district agronomist, they're really, really concerned about the mental confidence that our farming families are going through, and actually giving them strategies and skills in these really challenging times, not only for their finances but their well-being within themselves. And it's not 2018, it's going to move on into 2019, and we need to be moving forward and putting those strategies in place. So if a discussion paper could be pulled together would be, and I'd really like to have input into that discussion paper.
Absolutely. And Councillor Thomas added to that, the staff have been proactive. There's a drought support day on Wednesday, 3rd of October. It's been planned to coincide with the Australian Government mobile bus visit to Oakland, Shirana, and the aim is to bring together services and resources as possible to provide drought support information to local residents. The DHS have confirmed the availability of farm, household officer, rural financial counsellor, 2 centre service staff, social workers, representatives from Centacare. So as a local government organisation, there's a fair bit going on internally. I also had an interview with ABC Radio yesterday to the exact problem in relation to the frost, the drought, the continuation, retail sector, etc. So we're putting it out there, and I'd certainly support the draft paper as well. Councillor Longmire.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In supporting Councillor Thomas's endeavour, I'm not sure how we can line this up with the recommendations being extended, but certainly what Councillor Thomas's worthwhile opportunity to speak on in a workshop is paramount. But the one that I'd like to go further with is a foreshadowing a motion. Is that okay under the opportunity? And the foreshadowing the motion, notice of motion, is this: the Federation Council, when assessing the 2019-20 budget, take into consideration the serious loss of income from the 2018 harvest to farmland ratepayers because of seasonal conditions currently. Now, if that's okay, I'd like that to be put into position. The rationale in that understanding is that other councils currently, and I see the Albury City Council nominating an opportunity of something like $25,000 cash support donation to drought relief organisations. What I'm identifying here, that without being greedy or selfish or whatever, our farming community last year, certainly at the former Corowa Shire area, their rates increased by 14.9%. So what I'm looking down the track for, they've done that, they're on their way, certainly, and this is where the separation has become between the stock issues of donations of hay to what the cropping fraternity have got at the moment. Without wanting to be sectional about the people with the stock, but the croppers, because of the frost damage that Councillor Thomas mentioned, it's been identified by the agronomists and the farming community that there's nearly all but a complete wipeout of the cereal crop in a section 50 kilometres wide from the east of our shire to as far west or further than Savernake, down to Dookie and right up to Lockhart. This is really, really serious of the black frost that occurred about 10 days ago. And if we look at our production throughout our shire, and I'm emphasising now the croppers, because through our sale yards out here, we're now the 4th or 5th biggest in the state. Less than 10% of the throughput of sheep and lambs is from our shire area. So that identifies to me that 80 to 90% of our land mass within our council area is cropped. I could be wrong on some of those figures, but I reckon I'll be very close to it. So under the circumstances, you're looking at a situation of cereal crop. The two biggest crops in our region or our shire are cereal and canola. And it's been quantified now by many, many agronomists to say that the cereal is all but a complete wipeout with the frost damage, and the canola yield potential is less than 200 kilograms a hectare, which is well below the cost of production. So it's really, really serious. The producers are hanging in there in the short term, but as Councillor Thomas identified, it's this time next year, because they can't just stop not putting another crop in next year. So I believe financial relief, and I ask this of all governments, that something needs to be initiated, and I think some of it is, but there's further too, in regard to all levels of government, consider the enormous worry and wear that will happen with some of these farmers in their mental health going forward in regard to the cost of the financing of next year's cereal crop. So if that's okay, Mr General Manager and Mr Mayor.
Councillor Longmore, before I give time for a second for that motion, just a bit of clarity. Because we're all basically on the same page, it's just the best way forward. Consideration of a natural disaster declaration, maybe? Pushing for a natural disaster declaration?
I think I would have thought that's a consideration that would be worthwhile from this council to go forward.
Which would then pull a fair bit of punch for local government, as you've indicated your rates, and that's where the clarity part came in when we, so I'm guessing you wanted it, I suppose, in our next rate review, sensitivity board.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that can be something where we can look at the benefit of what we can do within the area of our own ratepayers and citizens. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from those other people in the rest of the state.
Yeah.
The charity sometimes starts at home, and we need to fight for what we have with what's going to be damaging under the current circumstances of the climate.
Absolutely.
We might just put that first one up, just for clarity. We've got that one on the screen now. Motion of Councillors Longmire and Thomas that council staff make application for inclusion into the federal government drought support program, along with supporting other neighbouring councils, and make contact with RAMJO to seek support. And as part of this, a discussion paper should be prepared outlining strategies to support our farming communities. Is that somewhere where you can put that one first?
Councillor Thomas, yes.
Is there any other discussion on that one, and then we'll deal with the second one around the grading?
That's fine. I'll make a second motion. Do I have a second for that motion, please?
That one's moved and seconded.
I'll
I'll
put it. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried? Okay.
And then the second one was foreshadow.
Foreshadow of the
On
motion.
the screen as well, that Federation Council, when assessing the 2019 just put 2020, please, Michelle.
Budget?
Take into account the serious loss to its farmland ratepayers. Is that something like your...
Yeah, I think so.
Councillor Longley, would you like to add the natural disaster declaration in there somewhere?
I would think so. That'd be, if we can include that, please. Councillor Thomas, you got some input?
Yeah, sorry, just a few seconds. I think
You got.
Sorry, Councillor Thomas.
So just further on for the brilliant idea for the natural disaster application, at least, you know, there was really concrete evidence with this frost event, so that was, you know, really added really strong weighting to putting this application in. Yeah, and of course obviously the rainfall deficiency. And the other terminology that has been thrown around is the green drought, you know, to the untrained eye to drive through this countryside at the moment and think, oh, you know, what are they complaining about? But, you know, it's that terminology that we really need to get into the application as well, so, yeah.
Yeah, I second that.
And you would like to second that motion? Yeah, I'd like you to second it and then we'll comment. Sorry, do I have a second? Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Meagle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Taking on from what Councillor Thomas has said previously, I've had the privilege to do a little bit of travelling in the north of the state and through also South Australia and Victoria, and when you look around other areas, excuse me, there is some significant hardship going on, and that's been well recorded both in the north of this state and in other states, the difficulty that our agricultural industry is facing. To come back on Sunday through this area, as Councillor Thomas said, it looked, what I thought was, we were very, very fortunate. However, as a result of that frost, we're now in the same boat that every other state area is in as well. While it looks better, the actual production is going to be minimal, so I really support the motion. I think we're in the same boat. Everybody around Australia has been very supportive of those farmers and agricultural sectors that have been doing it tough. We're now in the same boat.
Thank you. Any further comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 6.2, letter to Prime Minister Scott Morrison on the Federation Centre concept. The 6.2 explains the situation there. The Deputy Mayor was busy at the time, as well as myself. Councillor Longley has had a fair bit to do with this Federation concept, so it was great of him to step in and hand over the letter to the Prime Minister. So there's a recommendation there, councillors, recommending that council await reply from the Prime Minister's office and continue to work on the concepts for Federation Centre. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Longley.
Yeah, can I just on behalf of representing council, was a great honour to be able to give that, hand that letter to the Prime Minister. In regard to what the letter contained, it's written in the attachment, and I hope that people recognise the fact that we have demonstrated an opportunity that we believe and absolutely know that we are the birthplace of Federation, and so not to miss an opportunity, and he was welcoming of the opportunity to take it forward. So we hope that we keep in touch and we keep him up to date with it. Yeah.
It'll be in the media tonight, Councillor Longley. Okay, so Councillor Watchett.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could, and I acknowledge that that letter was delivered, and I'm sure that whilst I get a lot of letters presented, that it will get a reply. I note that in our recommendation that we're going to continue to work on the concepts of the Federation Centre, and I've mentioned at the last meeting that this has probably been raised and lowered a lot of times and nothing's ever progressed. Can I suggest that if we're going to go down the Federation Centre concept, that we have a plan, get a meeting or a workshop together and work it right out, but then keep banging on the door. Keep it going and keep the momentum going, because otherwise it's not going to happen. and there'll just be another letter that's sent, returned, acknowledged, and that'll be it. So we're going to make a stand and try and make Corowa the birthplace of Federation and a place to come to because of that, but we need to pursue it a hell of a lot harder and a hell of a lot stronger over and above this letter.
And also in conjunction with the Canadian Council as well. Christy, yeah, would you like to comment?
Yeah, following from the workshop last month, we're going to, we're currently progressing some concepts around Federation, which we're going to workshop again in October. We'll do a bit of a discussion paper or a discussion presentation so that council can, so we can really brainstorm our direction in that. We have met some Aboriginal tourism and we've met the museum last week as well, so just trying to get something sort of happening. But I agree, certainly Council, it's just we're going to have to really work hard at it.
Very positive, very exciting. Councillor
If I may conclude the discussion, Mr. Mayor, there's a sign over there, the signing of the Sister City Agreement. See if we can get another one with Charlottetown and Canada.
Sounds good, Councillor Long. Nothing further? I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against carried. Thank you. That's item 6.3, Yanko Creek Regulator, representation to the member for Albury, Mr. Applin. Councillors, yeah, as per reading, it creates a fairly daft situation with the water in the Yanko Combo system, back to possibly a puddle or a channel. So hoping we might support that. The recommendation that the council approach Mr. Greg Applin and arrange to meet to discuss the Yanko Creek regulator project. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against carried. Thank you very much. I'll now move on to the General Manager report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, report 7.1 is the election of the Deputy Mayor. Federation elected to have a one-year term for the Deputy Mayor, and under the Local Government Act, the Mayor is elected for two-year terms, so that brings the Deputy Mayor's term up for renewal, re-election today. So Council has resolved on that basis, so the Local Government Act outlines the requirements and the regulation around the process. Nominations for the position must be in writing by two or more councillors, one of whom may be the nominee. I do have two nominations here before me. So there is one from Councillor Law, Gail Law, and one from Councillor Sean Whitechurch to be considered for Deputy Mayor, and they've been both presented in the correct form. So on that basis, as the returning officer, I would ask whether any other nominations for that position of Deputy Mayor. So failing that, I will take those two nominations. We'll now proceed. The recommendation is before Council is to determine the method of election for the office of Deputy Mayor, and that be by way of a secret ballot based on the last Council preference for that voting. So recommendation there, point 2 is that the Council therefore then conduct the voting for the Deputy Mayor. So
moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against carried.
So we'll just now bear with us while we just hand around the voting papers. I'll ask Director of Finance and Organisational Development to send around the forms.
Very quiet, isn't it?
Very quiet.
Very quiet.
Created a lot of interest.
Yes.
The issues over there.
Hardly a talking point. Thank you. no armoured guard. That'd be the armoured guard, security for the boat. Sorry? Votes are in.
So the voting's been conducted, the counting's been conducted, so I declare Councillor Whitechurch the Deputy Mayor for a further one-year term.
Congratulations.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, if I can, I'd just like to thank the Council for the last 12 months for their support and the Council staff and certainly the Council for their support in the election year today, and I hope that we continue on with the work that we've been doing, and yes, thank you for your support.
Councillors, been asked to consider moving report 7.5, Yarrawonga Moore Island Bridge, to accommodate meter inquiries. Can I get a mover or a seconder? Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments on that, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against? Carried.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So report 7.5, Yarrawonga Marwala Bridge crossing. This report allows Council to further consider actions from the resolution passed at the April 2018 Council meeting regarding a request from the Moira Shire Council for this Council to reconsider the Council's preferred option for the preferred bridge alignment for the new Yarrawonga Marwala Bridge. So there was a letter attached, that's been represented. Won't go too much into the history, it's been a long project obviously already. It's come to light more recently with the release of the Vic Roads report on the priorities that they see for investment across their around 32 Murray River Bridge crossings. So that's brought a bit more focus onto the project, but notwithstanding that, the Moira Shire Council have since the Kyra's decision and not been changed by Federation, but the Moira Shire Council held their plebiscite where they're obviously supporting the green route. Kyra Shire, currently held by Federation, is still on the grey route, which also supports big roads and certainly all both state governments for that matter, state, New South and Victoria. So the council had received a letter from Moira and resolved to do further investigation into that. There's a detailed report there for council to consider. Some available options for council now would seem to be that they reaffirm the former Kyra Shire's position and continue to support the grey route, or they could follow the Moira Shire's approach and survey the Marwala area with an area to be defined, or they could support the green route in principle and survey the community on that decision. So the council recommendation, at least to consider before them today, is to note the report on the Yarrawonga Marwala Bridge, to engage with Vic Roads and the Roads and Maritime Services on the Murray River Crossings Investment Priority Assessment Report, and a further report be presented after this time. So that's around that, what we'd see would be a 10-year window at least before we see construction of a bridge over that crossing. And then point 3 in the recommendation was to council to survey the Marwala community to determine their preferred bridge alignment for the new bridge and receive a further report after this time. That's just before council.
There's a recommendation there, councillors. We have moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments? Councillor Longmire, I think your hand might have been up first.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In regard to this, let's bring it to a conclusion. It's a bit like the swimming pool, I mean, really. But we've been firm on our conviction on the journey from the time it commenced back in 2010, I believe. Ours was a recommendation, but let's not forget that in that recommendation and one of those meetings, previously, that we not only supported the the recommendation, or our recommendation, was to support the grey route. But we also moved and a resolution to say that explore all opportunities of funds for the commencement of it. That was, never let that be forgotten. We've pursued the opportunity by resolution to get the money. So that's been a strength of what we adopted back at that time. The other parts of it, where there was $7 million spent in the research and the survey and the rest of it, and it was coordinated that the Vic Roads were the lead agency, RMS were also on board, and of course the two state governments have agreed to it. So out of all the entities, it's only the Moira Shire that have dug their heels in regard to the position of the grey route. Having said that, I fully endorse the opportunity for the survey. We've got $30,000, I think there, Mr General Manager, identified. I think that'll be money well spent for the people of Mulwala to get to a conclusion. The plebiscite is not binding. There's another way of doing it with ministerial approval. That's called I just can't think of the word, but this is the way to go. A survey to get it done and concluded with, and so there's the evidence once again to go forward and get the thing built.
Thanks, Councillor Moore. Councillor Law?
I want to bring your attention to a letter to the editor in the Border Mail on the 11th of September, Mr Peter Bennett from Yarrawonga. He said, in the green corner we have the Moira Shire. In the designated route, the grey corner, chosen by the Victorian Government in November 2015, we have the Victorian State Government, the New South Wales State Government, Vic Roads, Maritime Services New South Wales and the Federation Shire. Not only is Moira not reading off the same song sheet, I don't think they're even reading the same hymn. It also says that traffic studies have shown that 88% of the traffic across the current bridge is Yarrawonga to Mulwala or the other way. Local start, local finish. A further 10% starts in one town or the other and travels then through the other towns to reach its destination, a non-local finish. Do the maths. Very little is through freight and the grey route will easily cope with B-doubles and the like. Yarrawonga does not lie on a major north-south freight route. The grey route alignment will direct large trucks out of the main street, Belmore Street, and will allow local traffic to enter for shopping and other activities. I'm a little bemused that the grey route supporters, a very small but vocal group, being upset at the delay to the new bridge being built when it's their activities and those of the Moira Shire that have shown a lack of unity in the two towns and have contributed to the government's reassessment of the priorities. Now, I'm in agreement that we have another survey, but I think the survey is going to show you the same thing, that it is the local traffic that uses that bridge, 88% of it, and it's a shame to waste $30,000 on it, but it seems that we have to.
Thank you, Councillor Warren, and I suppose that's what we're about. We want to find out where the people sit with this issue. Councillor Thomas. Councillor, sorry.
Oh, I need to take questions, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Councillor Thomas.
So as stated, the iconic Mulwala Yarrawonga Bridge will be the sole accessible connection between the two Murray River towns beyond 2020. Hence, the urgency to have conclusive agreement for the placement of the new bridge is vital for both communities, local government areas, respective state authorities and the federal government to have the ability to move forward in the process. Local government are the elected representatives of their communities and thus should have influence on the decision but may not have control. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, if I could, I totally endorse the fact that we're going to pursue this further and trying to get an answer, as Councillor Longmire suggested. It's been dragged on and dragged on. With the item 3 in the recommendation regarding the survey, before that survey is out, can I suggest that Council have a defined answer to be able to give the people who are going to do the survey as to which way we're going to go. So if the survey goes 52% one route, 48% the other, are Council going to support the result of the survey wholly and solely, or is it only going to be a little part in the decision making? If we're going to spend $30,000 on the survey, like Councillor Law said, it's going to have to be done properly by obviously a certified surveying company. But what merit are we going to put on the survey results? Are we going to hang our hat on that as the people have spoken, or are we going to go against that survey decision? That's something I'd like to to have resolved before the survey goes out.
And Councillor Whitechurch, I think, I'm not sure, but at the workshop, my opinion on that was that we put the survey out to get the feeling of the people, then it would have to come back to council ultimately for that end decision. Because if it was a very split decision, it would come back and council would have to take it up then and do it. Councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, being the local councillor in Moala with Councillor Thomas, born and bred there, been across that bridge wouldn't know how many times. We need to, as you said, that last motion there, to survey the community and see what they want. Like there's been to and fro, and you see how many things have been back and forwards. It's going on. The way this we're going, we won't get a bridge. And if there's only one, the Weir Bridge is shutting in 2020. If there's a crash on that bridge, we've got to go via Tokemore or Kurrawa to get to Yarrawonga. And there's a lot of businesses come across that way, so it needs to be sorted out. It needs to get the community involved and see what they want to say. And I reckon if, not up to us to our decision, it's up to the community to make a decision. Like obviously Yarrawonga's had their decision, even though they've done the plebiscite and it wasn't, not everyone was surveyed, but I reckon in Moala, if you survey everyone, we should be able to see what we get. So I hope it all's done properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Wales.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I definitely agree with the survey, and to me, in my mind, there are definitely pluses for both routes, so that's what I believe.
Thank you, Councillor Wales. Councillor Legal and Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to take comments from my fellow councillors that going back in the journey, the support of the grey route was, at the time from the Kurrawa Shire Council, was our preferred option. And it was part of the consultation that Vic Roads undertook as the lead agency. They did all the data, they did all the surveys, they did all the traffic counts and came to a decision. And from what we heard was that the decision was pretty close. There was merit in both routes. So they have made their decision. That was supported by RMS. That's now been supported by 2 state governments. In the intention, certainly from the Kurrawa Shire, was that we would accept the umpire's decision, whatever that case would be. Had it been the green route, so fine, let's move on and get the bridge, because, as Councillor Kennedy has pointed out, and Councillor Longmire, we need a new bridge, and we need it sooner rather than later. And as the General Manager said, we can't afford to wait for a 10-year gap between when the Weir Bridge closes and the new bridge is built. So the urgency is to actually get the commitment to the funding and get the priority rated, and the recent decision to come in as a medium priority is really disappointing, given the significance of the that route provides to those 2 towns. Not to also mention that Yarrawonga Moala is a significant tourist destination, and to actually have that happen in the peak time would be catastrophic to both communities. I'm not convinced that, whilst I don't wish to disrespect the Moala community, as noted in the report, this issue has divided that community. I think if we do the survey, we will find that that will only confirm that data, that there is a divided community, as to some supporting grey and some supporting green. Therefore, I'm not really convinced that it's worth the investment to only prove what we already know. The other thing is that even if it does prove that, it is not really our decision. It is still the decision of the state governments. They're the umpires in this matter, with support from the federal. All we are the minor role players. We can put our bits forward, but they ultimately make the decision. They've made their decision. I feel that further procrastination will only defer them actually getting on with it. And I believe that we should be spending our resources lobbying the government to increase the priority to get the bridge built as a matter of urgency, rather than spending money deciding to prove what we already probably believe in the first place. So I'm certainly happy to move the first 2 points. I'm not sure that the third point warrants the investment, and that's no disrespect to the Moala community. If they don't like the umpire's decision, let's lobby the umpire, not the people that don't have any role in making the decision.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Councillor Thomas.
This is more of a question, which is we need clarifying. So when the Weir Bridge is closed in 2020, will there still be access for pedestrian traffic over the Weir Bridge?
Hand that to the general manager.
Yeah, haven't seen the detail on that, whether they will allow that or not. My guess would be no, but certainly something we can talk about around the impact of that closure, yeah.
Any further questions on that, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Councillors is councillor delegates to reference advisory groups and organisations and committees. This report just allows council to review and add and reaffirm councillors that are delegated to four quite distinct separate categories of committees that council does have representation on. So the recommendation there to review those committees and organisations as listed in the attachment 7.2.1.
So moved.
Moved by councillor Longmire, seconded by councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments? Councillor Thomas.
I've just noticed in the list that there's still a couple of delegates required that aren't listed in the attachment. So do we fill those today?
Yeah, that's correct. We'd like to see if councils have had a look at those, what ones they would like to help us fill out. Just pull up the attachment. Oh, it's up there on the screen anyway, so that's good. So we have tidied up quite a lot of the rural fire service committees from the previous list without changing our zones, but the two councils coming together, so that's probably the first one. We do have service level agreement committee for rural fire service. That's okay, those two. I think that's okay, Rochelle, as on that screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
So you
Go to the next.
so you
We're seeking one, aren't we?
we're seeking one for a GM or rep for the service level agreement committee, the Royal Fire Service, and also a delegate and alternate.
Oh, yeah, so that normally would be the mayor.
Anyone now, it's not they've said it doesn't have to be the mayor or deputy.
Yep.
They're just after a delegate and an alternate.
Yep. So what's councillors' position on that? With councillors on that rural fire service committee, with councillors one, anyone?
Councillor Longmire.
Yep.
I'm happy to be your alternate. Councillor Longmire. That fits?
Yep.
And the GM or rep.
Normally Director of Engineering, Director of Infrastructure. So that's the Local Emergency Management Committee. So that's a statutory committee that we are required to have. Seeking a councillor delegate.
No, I've done it.
Councillor Watchurch, alternate.
Alternate.
Councillor Wales.
Wales. Yep. We go through club grants. So club grants committee, Mulwala seeking two delegates, is it yourself? Or, yep. Two councillors for that one, Councillor Thomas and Councillor Kennedy. Cora Howlong, again, seeking two, Councillor Meagle, Councillor Wales, Watchurch. Which one out of you two? Watchurch, yep. Federation, that's another, that's the Zone Management Committee, so Federation Berrigan Zone, Bushfire Management Committee, so staff will be the Engineering Director. And seeking a delegate from Councillor Kennedy, yep. Councillor Kennedy and Longmire alternate.
Yeah, that's one.
Yep. Down to the Local Emergency Management Committee.
Did I see that one?
Can we do that one?
Yeah, I might have been there twice because I'm.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got that one, yeah.
Jeez.
That may be the end, isn't it?
Yeah, Daysdale.
Daysdale Water Trust delegate. Councillor Longmire. Alternative? Councillor Meagle. Thank you.
Make sure it's flowing out there, Councillor Longmire. Got to make sure it's flowing out there.
And we've just tied up a lot of those other ones. We've deleted a few of those committees that are no longer running. Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, councillors, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
Report 7.3, Ballpark Caravan Park Cora, an update of re-tendering of the contract and seeking extension for Belgravia Pro on their existing short-term contract. So the report there is quite detailed, outlines the process that has gone and is underway to re-tender that document. Council are engaged in the services of local government procurement to put some more work into that process. They're a business arm of our local government New South Wales, our industry association, so they're considered the experts in tendering procurement services for council. So we've engaged those along with our legal advisors to prepare a new document. The recommendation is to note the report on the re-tendering process, and that council agreed to extending the existing contract for the management of the Ballpark Caravan Park Cora with Belgravia Pro until a maximum of 31 January 2019, finishing earlier if required.
Councillors, I'll take a move and second. Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Meagle.
Yeah. Just happy to move the motion because it's necessary and required. Disappointed that it's taken that long. We've been trying to get to a much more timely resolution to the situation, but I guess it is what it is. Just to note my disappointment that it's had to be extended for as long as it has. That's all.
Councillor Meagle, if I may add to that, I'm personally disappointed myself in that as well, because I just feel that it puts other parties, we did have another tenderer, in a position of, I suppose, weight or of the unknown, particularly if you look at the next 7.4 with the items that are recommended to be carried out in the shorter term. I certainly hope that's not in the term of that next agreed period, if there is, if council wishes to go that way, because I acknowledge that there's a lot of some money and works in there that weren't in the original tender documents. So the original tender documents would still stood, I would have imagined, for the term of that short-term tender. So, look, personally, I'd even put it out there, what does council think about whether Belgravia should go back into that short period or it should be opened up for equal opportunity? Councillor Meagle.
Thank you. I think the decision was to re-tender, to make it fair and equitable right from the word go and restart and do the process again. We were under the impression at the time that that would be a timely and expedient process. It's not turned out to be, hence the disappointment. However, I think having set that task, this is the way we've gone. It's more the time frame that has been the disappointment rather than the process.
Councillors, I know we are in open session, so it's probably more of a confidential issue. Councillors, the recommendation has been moved and seconded. Would you like to, I'll now put the recommendation. All in favour? Against? And I'd like to record, thank you. Carried.
Who was against it?
Oh,
Thank you, Councillor. 7.4 is Ballpark Caravan Park Works update. So the purpose of this report is to provide Council with an update on the capital requirements under the existing budget allocation for Council's operating under a new contract which commenced on the 1st of July 2018. There was significant change in the previous long-term lease of the Ballpark Caravan Park, and it required council, which council were quite well across, to have much more involvement in the operation of the park as needed to progress improvements to the park. And I say that in regards to the 18-month contract with the extensions, not the current 3-month contract that's been let. So one of the reasons that the council moved to the new model was that the council could get a greater understanding of the park's operations, including occupancy and revenue, receive all the revenue, understand the operational costs and capital works requirements more clearly, and then to go forward and identify and carry out where required capital improvement works. I think it's clear that the park was needing a major refurbishment by council, investment by council, leading to a longer term model perhaps down the track. So the council budget allowed for a very broad range of works, basically estimating income and then off the back of that working out what the capital works and maintenance would be. Obviously since that time, in the last 3 months especially, the council have been in and around the park a lot more under this model, and there's a list of items there that are required in the shorter term to be carried out, and they're clearly outlined in the document, which invests into the future of the park and I guess in some ways refurbishes it for the future models. So the total budget allocation now is $285,000. It's not new funding, it's funding that was just been more clearly outlined into the works we see as council, as staff, as others have looked through the park as to what is needed for safety and improvement. So there's a bunch of work there needed that we're recommending that go ahead, and it's really just clearly for council's budget information, and that will come through as part of the budget review where we allocate those in the capital items. So the recommendation just to note the report on the Caravan Park Works update.
Right, mover. Moved Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. Councillor Longline.
No, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Wells, was yours
Oh, but you can't say vote.
all in favour? Against? Carried.
7.5 is done. 7.6 is a report on the purchase of land at 23 Millthorpe Street, Oaklands, seeking the authorisation for the common seal to be affixed to that document. So that's for the purpose of information, that is a long outstanding project in itself that allows council to take ownership of a plot of land within the centre of Oaklands, which allows for the Oaklands RV Park to continue to be developed, which is a grant-funded project and a community project over many years. So that's bringing forward the formalities to allow the transfer from the current owners to council, and then council proceed with the development application off the back of that to continue to develop the site.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Longline, seconded by Councillor Wales. Any questions or comments? Councillor Wales.
Mr Mayor, if I could, it's come up a couple of times, the acquisition of that land over various council meetings and public consultation. I did mention in one other meeting that there was concern that when that went back to the council, that the grant that has been given for the RV park to the people of Oaklands, they were concerned that the demolishing of that building would come out of the grant. I think that if that hasn't been discussed, it needs to be clear to make sure that the grant is wholly and solely for the park, and that people can make a decision on how they're going to demolish it or what they're going to do. There was talk of the community demolishing it if that was the way it was going to go.
Yeah, so on that one, the development application will be prepared for the demolition, removal of that building. Contains a minimal amount of asbestos, but needs to be done correctly. So the development application will be prepared by staff now that when we do own the block, and they'll consolidate a number of allotments in there. It'll call for the removal of that building because it has got some objection to that based on local importance. So there's going to be a development application presented which does allow for a formal exhibition through that phase. And then regards to the funding, the total project, that one and a number of others will come up hopefully in October when we know a little bit more about the scope of that RV park project. And we will have to include the total cost of the project is the project. But if it's seeking additional funding from that major project, that'll be a decision we present to council along with a number of other major projects as to what funding is remaining in that bucket. Yeah.
Any further questions, councillors? If not, put it all in favour. Against, carried.
That concludes those reports, Mr Mayor.
Okay, councillors, would you like to break for morning tea?
Well, it's up to you.
By Joel,
Very easy.
second, by Fiona, second, councillor Thomas, all in favour?
Aye.
Against?
I'm going to go right now, mate.